Hey friends, we have to talk real quick about what's been going on because the window is open. Buyers, if you've been sitting on the fence, it's about to be a wild ride. Although there are some unknowns that we'll touch on later. Now, I mentioned this back in our kind of market update report back in August that the market is getting really soft, which means that things aren't really selling really quickly and inventory is starting to stack up. We just sold a home on a street that had 6 other homes for sale. 6 on the same street. Now, because of our listing system and our marketing strategy, the home that we listed happened to sell first and before any of the other 6 on the street sold, which is a testament to us and our efforts, mini brag. But also, it's gotta be weird thinking if you're a buyer walking up and down the street looking around at all the signs going, what the heck is going on here? I mean, it's not what's wrong with this house because it's been on the market for 150 days. It's what's going on with this neighborhood? Now, I did speak with some of the other agents and sellers on the street, and I understand that this is just a coincidence. But also at the same time, I bet a lot of those other agents that are listing those homes on the street are like, dang it, that one sold and not mine? Because if you think about it, that was the buyer, right? That was the buyer that was ready to make the decision, and all they really had to do is pick which one of the houses that they wanted to buy first. And we won out, and our listing won out. It was the most attractive, it was the best positioned, and we got a really great price. But again, that's not always been the case this year. With days on market way up right now, for buyers, especially right now, although also this year in general, it has been a really good time to negotiate money off of the price. Especially as we head into winter and fall, sellers out there right now who may have been sitting on the market for a while are gonna have to start facing the music on whether or not their house is actually gonna sell before the end of the year. This past year, I had to look it up, but this past year we've saved our clients hundreds of thousands of dollars in negotiating that off of the purchase price of their properties that they're buying. In fact, on average, homes are only getting 95% of their list price right now. And I would expect that could almost potentially even drop further through the rest of this year. Now, we know that there are a bunch of buyers out there who have been sitting on the fence, and maybe you're one of them, because you're waiting for 2 things to change. 1, prices are way too high, and 2, interest rates are too high. That's been the logjam for like the last 2 years. But now, of course, as we just discussed, prices are finally coming down. We have seen a summer full of price reductions, and in fact, we've also mentioned this before, that like now that we're into fall, there's kind of like this notion that you've got to get real serious. These sellers have got to get serious about moving their property and selling them and price reducing them before the end of the year. I mean, if people have to sell these homes, they've got to get serious. They've got to really start being aggressive with their price reduction. So falling prices are one really good reason why now is a good time to buy. But the real story here are the interest rates. Interest rates have been on the decline recently, and by the time you see this video, they could be in the 5s. I hope so. They're like 6.02 the day that I wrote the script. They're 6.05 today. We're getting really close. Now, the Fed just cut the rate a week or 2 ago, depending on when you're seeing this video, by 50 basis points. And whether or not that's good or bad for the economy, it is really good for mortgage rates. And we have seen mortgage rates on the decline for the past maybe 3 or 4 months. In fact, right now we are at a 2-year low. Yes, finally, right? Okay, so we did project that this would happen back in our last market video. And in that video, back in August, the rates were at about 6.5, like 6.5. But even a few months before that, or a month and a half before that, in late June, they were like 6.85. Now, I really want to explain this because even a younger version of myself, even when I was in real estate, didn't fully understand the massive impact that just about a single point can make on a home purchase. This is really important. Please pay attention to this. For instance, let's say you were going to buy a house in that kind of median price range or average price range here in Bend. Let's say you're gonna buy a house for $750,000. And just for the sake of argument, you're gonna put 10% down. So the actual loan amount is $675, okay? $750 house, $675 is a loan amount because you've got 10% you're putting down. Maybe this isn't you, maybe you've got a whole different price point, maybe you've got a ton of cash, but it is pretty interesting. So hang with me here. The payment on that loan amount back in late June, could almost say early July at 6.85, would be $4,423. First of all, that's absurd. That's a ridiculous amount of money for a mortgage payment. That's expensive. I agree. But secondly, you'd have to also bring in well over six figures in order to afford that house. However, with a mortgage interest rate of 5.99, that mortgage payment would only be $4,043. That's almost $400 difference, which is also almost $5,000 per year. I don't know about you, but waiting 3-ish months, maybe 3.5 months to save $5,000 a year or $400 per month seems totally worth it to me. But also, that $400 out of the $4,000 payment is also 10% of the payment, right? Which you could also use to rationalize that you could also afford 10% more house. So instead of buying a house at $750, assuming you qualified back in June, now you could potentially buy a house for $825. Wild, huh? That's a big difference. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Well, if I can wait a little bit and save that much money, why don't I keep waiting for rates to fall into the 3s and or 4s? Well, to that I would say because you won't be waiting a few more months, you'll be waiting a few more years. We've also discussed this before. Interest rates are never going to come back into the 3s. I'd be surprised if they hit the 4s in the next 5 to 10 years, barring any sort of crazy market shift. Because when the rates do finally get under 6 and they enter the 5s, they're probably going to float around that 5 range for many years to come. Okay, so interest rates were part 2 of this equation that we're talking about today. So now we have softer prices and lower interest rates, which is trending the right way, right? But something else is happening. Between now and November, which is only a month away really, there's a lot going on. A lot of headlines because this little thing called the presidential election is happening. And historically, throughout the market, this time of year, in presidential election years, the market just kind of takes a time out. Everyone just kind of holds their breath. Everybody just wants to kind of wait around and see how this is going to pan out. You know, are we going to have riots in the street if either side wins or loses, right? Whew. Looking back at the data, there is a large percentage of people that just kind of step back from the market and decide not to transact in Q4, basically, of the election year. Now, what is really interesting, and I've seen charts in this, I don't have them, I can't show you, but I've seen charts, all those people that kind of held back in Q4 end up coming and returning to the market in Q1 and Q2, which means there are going to be more transactions happening next year after the election and after the holidays and after the first of the year. So my question is, does that really matter? Really matter? Does the house care who wins? Don't you still need shelter? Is the location you are moving to going to radically change pending the outcome of the election? Or rather, heck, I'll just make it local, is Central Oregon or Bend going to radically change pending the outcome of the election? Now, some of you might say yes, absolutely, but I would just, my response to that would be take a chill pill and you watched probably too much election coverage. Look, make your choices, do your homework, do your research, vote who you're gonna vote for, and then let's move on. So, all three things, the election, the interest rates, the prices, I bring together to kind of illustrate my logic. And maybe this is just me, but maybe, just maybe, now that window is open where a buyer can get into a home, take advantage of the lower interest rates, take advantage of the lower prices, and not have to face a lot of competition because everybody else is holding the breath to see who wins the election. If you're active and engaged in this market right now, I think that's a benefit. Because if we track to the future for a second, we think about the future, a lot of the gurus are saying that these buyers are going to come out of the woodwork come next year. Interest rates are going to be lower, prices are lower. Like those two things are going to be happening, are happening already right now. And this big wave of buyers is going to come in, eat up all the inventory, And we're going to be back to this really aggressive seller's market where there are multiple offers on every house. It's possible. In fact, it might already be starting. In fact, a recent article from Axios says that mortgage applications are at a 19-month high already currently. Home affordability just improved for the first time in 4 years. Things are trending in a much better direction, and so people are going to jump back in. So you can either be early to the game or late. Now I'm going to talk about unknowns really quickly. Unknowns are, will the buyers actually bounce back like predicted? They're supposed to, but who knows? Another question, if buyers bounce back because the interest rates become appealing to them again, will sellers do the same and start getting in line to sell their house? And will we have a big influx of inventory from sellers who are now thinking, oh, interest rates are lower, I can sell my house and then buy the next one? And then finally, maybe if buyers and sellers both engage in the market at the same time, at the same rate, maybe there is no difference in supply and demand. Things stay relatively flat because we have more buyers and more sellers, but there'll be more transactions. But because there isn't any differentiation between supply and demand, the market stays very level and we don't see prices go up much. That's also a possibility. Lots going on here. I hope I gave you some thought. I hope it got your wheels turning. I think it's gonna be a busy fourth quarter for me and my team. I think it's gonna be a very busy 2025 overall, market-wide. I think it's gonna be a very good year. And as you know, we're gonna be here tracking all the data and working hard for our clients, our buyers, and our selling clients. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you or somebody you know is looking to buy or sell here in the Central Oregon area, my team and I would love to be your local real estate resource of choice. You can reach out to us at cromrealestate.com. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you over in the next video.